Hello, welcome to the studio. Hi, my name is William Osorio. I'm a Cuban artist, born and raised, based in Miami, and we are here in my studio residency at the Miami Dade Padrón campus de Havana with the Museum of Art and Design, Miami Dade College. I have been in the studio for a little more than a month. I moved in somewhere in late October, and as an artist that has had a practice that has been mostly, an alone practice. To be an artist is something that you do in solitude, we can say. It has been a very enriching experience to be in a place that, when you're in the studio working, you have your doors open. So it has been great to engage with the student, to have a student in many classes come in and ask questions and challenge some notions that I have. Normally not the case for an artist. You tend to work by yourself, and it's you and your work, and the process develops in a space where the outside world is not present, at least physically. And with this experience of an artist in residency at an educational institution, it has been very enriching, has been great. I have enjoyed a lot.
So how often do the students come?
Well, we have done a few organized classes where they come with the professors and they have questions, and they come with an idea of what they're gonna ask. But other times when I'm here, the doors are open and people just come in and ask you. And it is interesting to see that they, outside of the curriculum that they have to be here for a class, they choose to come in and ask and see how I'm working. And I have had students that I ask them about their majors, and it got nothing to do with art, and they are asking technical questions about how certain materials work, and asking for advices of how to do it. It is something that is it's good to see as an artist, that you to know that there are people out there whose art is not part of their everyday life, and they still have an interest to try to understand what happens behind the scene.
What were you most excited to explore while being in this particular space?
I'm working a new body of paintings. We can say that the most difficult thing of the residency has been to start a new body of work. Starting a new body of work, you have that sort of empty space at the beginning of a new body of paintings, where you are trying to find a way, find a path. Like walk into the wood where a path has not been built yet for you to walk in, and you have to make it. You have to find a way to go through. And that has been the most challenging aspect. It happened at the beginning. I'm still developing. I'm working in this new series of paintings that explore. I'm a new parent. I'm a father now, and paternity has influenced a lot my last year of my life. That's say last year in 9 months, and I had an exhibition this year of very intimate works on papers, which is a very delicate medium that had to do with those early months of the life of my daughter. And this body of painting that I'm developing now is a continuation of that. How is this attempt to find and elevate those fleeting moments of everyday life, elevating them to art, posing them as sort of a poetic language. How when we take this small detail aspect of everyday life and we put it in a different context, they can become something else. Example of this in art history is Duchamp's work. How you take something from everyday life and it becomes something else in a different context. So there's one artist that I'm looking at a lot during this investigation, we can say, and it is Pierre Bonnard. His work of intimate settings and everyday life, and how he saw painting as a way of elevating those instances. There is also this element with this new body of paintings of there is this really good book here. It's called Painters on Paintings, writings and extracts from letters. And there is these letters from Bonnard that he says, "I have been carried away by color. I was almost unconsciously sacrificing form. My painting has been figurative in a way, a very direct documentation of life so far. And I have found that with this new body of work, I'm more interested in the way that color and form as a whole works. And I find myself in that situation right now, not sacrificing form and likeness, but paying attention to the shape that color can form by itself."
You've explored both abstraction and portraiture.
Yes.
How do you decide what form of expression you want to do?
Figurative painting has been a central element of my work. The abstraction attempts in my paintings have been limited. I do believe that as a whole, even figurative work, there is a big element of abstraction to it. It depends, how far and how close you look at it. Now, everything can be abstract when you look up close. When I paint, when I work, I do, for example, if we look at this painting back here.
I love this, by the way. It's beautiful.
Thank you. If we look at this section of the painting, it is an abstract painting. There is no figure. When you look here, there is an obvious portrait, but only when you look from far away and you focus on this. But when you go, to a different part of the section of the portrait, it becomes something else. So for me, they both mix together. The way we speak, you have the sound and you have the silence that makes the sound make sense. There has to be a balance because of as human beings, we see, so we see and confuse the world with our experience of it. When we look here, we recognize ourselves in the figure right away. But if we were, a big stain of blue paint, that will be the figurative part of the painting for us. So I see it like that. Of course, the figurative, the human body, the human figure will be the center of and what attracts us right away because we see ourselves in the work. In that sense, the painting, they tend to function as mirrors of who we are. But the other part of the work is very important as well.
Something I found so intriguing about you and the work you do, you had a series of famous Cuban writers.
Mm-hmm.
Did you take on portraying them? These people with such great intellect and culturally rich figures. What made you take on that project?
Well, so the first thing is that the idea of that body of work was to select a few writers from Cuban intellectual history. They were Virgilio Piñeira and Severo Sarduy. And so these are two intellectuals. One of them left Cuba prior to the revolution, and he went to live in Paris. It is interesting because his work was, and I also see myself in a way in this person like Severo, somebody that left his homeland, and he was able to develop a language that spoke about his root and his identities from a distance, from far away. And then you have Virgilio Piñera, who was an amazing poet prior to the revolution. The revolution came, and these two artists saw themselves left outside of the canon of what it was to be what it happened to others. There is also Reinaldo Arena is the other writer that I included in that body of work. And what I did was to take photograph of them and insert myself in the position, in the composition as this artist. And it was an attempt to talk of how 60 something years later, Cuban artists and artists in general in the world are still struggling with freedom of speech and an attempt to be included when you are considered to be in the margins. I consider myself a little bit to be in the margins. I'm a self-taught artist, and to come into the first question you asked, I forgot to mention this. It means a lot for me to be here because I'm like I said, I'm an artist. I'm an immigrant. I'm somebody that when I came to this country, I didn't speak the language. I had to struggle and learn and try to communicate. And painting function as a sort of an extension of that lack of ability to express, and became part of my language. And to be in an academic institution as taking part of this residency, there is the element of being included when you come from the outside. So these artists, they were part of the Cuban cultural scene, and then they were left outside when the revolution came with new ideas of what it meant to be the new man that they wanted to build. These were artists had different ideas. They were judged by their sexuality, by their opinion, by the crudeness and figuration and excess of everything that we saw that we can read in their work. Piñeira and Severo. Arena came later. There is this Baroque element to Cuban culture. They were both influenced, all of the Cuban writers by Lezama Lima. And so this heaviness, this of memory that we as Cubans, that we are a mix, and we bring all of this to our presence and our identity. And those paintings, they were painted on rocks, as these ones. They were part of the rock painting body of work. The rock is painted, then the canvas is hand stitched onto the rock. You see here. So those paintings of the writer, they had also at that point I was already experimenting with the inclusion of recycled textiles onto the paintings. I'll show you here. I collect and maintain as part of my palette. They have become an extension of my palette. These little pieces of fabrics. These are left over from other paintings. They continue to appear in different works in the future. I want to show you this other rock painting. So that painting on the hammock right there, that was the beginning of the rock paintings. That was part of the exhibition in LNS Gallery, Only Silence Hears. And that painting was a reivindication of leisure as creativity and intellectual activity. For in the ancient Greece, leisure was the word they used for school. Because we think today of leisure as the opposite of production in this hyper-productive and profitable time that we live. That everything has to bring about money and something.
Yeah.
People don't take the time, or it has become a luxury to do so. Take the time just to be there and be present and meditate or read because they like to read, or look at art just because they like to look at art without other ideas and intentions behind. And so I love that idea of how for the ancients a space of leisure was a space of creative development of being there and being able to create something. When you look at art history, all the major works has been this is a very ludic activity. It's something you do because you love. In the moment you're doing it, you are enjoying it. We can go back to the writings of the ancient philosophers, the invention of arithmetic. Everything was created by a community of people that did it before pre-production and with the intention of creating a profit out of it. Things take a different path later on, but it was that. It was an attempt to reivindicate those moments. So that idea of calmness and silence, and where these big ideas and beautiful things could be created in those moments.
Did you always want to be an artist when you were growing up, or is it something you stumbled into?
No, I mean the idea of as a kid, I have growing up in Cuba, we have a very active childhood. Play outside, you play sports, and
not so much electronical devices.
No, I mean, not my generation. I saw a computer with internet for the first time almost when I was 20 years old, and even today, as you can see in my practice, my work is very. It's not that I refuse to do it, but I enjoy too much. For example, a lot of my work has to do with collage. The paintings they start with collage, and I enjoy cutting paper and gluing and then doing it myself. The technology is very important. I use photography. A lot of my work is based on photography, photographic material. But I was a kid that I draw, but I didn't have any. Don't believe in special, the idea of talent and being hit with this light from heaven. I don't believe in that. I was a kid that liked to draw like other friends. The only difference was that I continued to do it, and the more you do something, the better you get at. At some point, my friends they didn't do it. I became better and better and better, and but it was from a position of from a distance. When I went I attempted to go into art school. I got into art school and it was 2 years before coming to America. I had to cut it. I said that I'm a self-taught artist because I didn't finish it. And when I went to art school, I found it was the first time that I heard about all of this, the art history and all the conceptual elements and that structure of ideas and thought behind that goes with art that we know it is part of the art world. But for me, it was just a way of painting is a way of seeing. You even when I'm not here in front of a canvas painting or in front of a rock painting, I'm out there looking at life and every day in a way that I see paintings in little details, and that's where the paintings come from. I take photos of things that I imagine they could become a painting, and before I had the language to articulate all of these things, I just had to draw. I love to draw, and drawing was a way to be with myself. You feel at peace, and you forget about everything else. It's not a therapeutic activity, but it's something that makes you feel very good. It made me feel good, and I kept doing it and doing it and doing it, and here I am. Mm-hmm. Yeah, haven't been able to stop.
Do you form an initial scene in your head of what you want to create, how you want the result of the product to be?
I see it. I see it in my life, in my I see it in my head, and it is interesting because I talk to my partner, my wife, and I tell her I have this idea, I have this painting, it's gonna be this, and this, and she tells me, show it to me when you are more advanced, because there are works that I'm on the way, and I already know, I see it. I just have to wait because sometimes the process doesn't let you go all the way from the beginning. You have to wait for paint to dry, and there is this discipline now that you have to follow. But very rarely I have to come back and change something because I have already seen it. A painting, like I mentioned before, became a way of conveying something that I knew, like languages. sometimes you have to say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. This is what I meant to say. And it happens with the painting. You come back into the studio, or maybe you go home and there is, I take photos of the painting when they're in the process. I'm looking at it and there is something bothering me and I cannot wait to get back, say to the painting, I'm sorry, I made this mistake. And I fix it with, the way we do when we speak. So I wanted to speak about this work. So this painting, now, you know what? We could I can speak to you about this, and then I tell you how I got to that. So this work,
Oh, wow.
this was called the Face of Leviathan.
When did you do this?
This is 2021,
Whoa.
July 2021, with the massive Cuban, the protests in Cuba all over the island,
Yes.
and the way the island, the police and the government responded in a violent um, and inhumane way, as it wasn't a surprise. So I made this painting. This painting is quoting the composition of Guernica de Pablo Picasso. And it's almost the same size. It's 240 inches by 100, I believe. Very big. See over here. That's the installation, the work. So this painting was part of this exhibition in El Espacio 23. It was called You Know Who You Are. Tú sabes quién eres. So the composition came about with that idea of
It's absolutely incredible.
when El Guernica de Picasso did all the tours after the exhibition when it was created in 1939. The painting spent the painting was in MoMA until 1985, I believe. After the dictatorship ended in Spain, the painting was brought back to Spain, and they put a tapestry of the Guernica in the United Nations as a way to remind people making decisions about the life of millions, how disastrous war could be. It was a reminder. When the United States went to work after the 9/11 tragedy, when Colin Powell came, he did a press conference saying that we were going to go to work. They covered the tapestry of Guernica with a big blue, I don't know how you say, telon, a big blue curtain. They intentionally covered the painting, the tapestry that was in the United Nations. And it was a very strong gesture, how they were covering this image that was remembering the war of how disastrous violence is. So when this happened in Cuba, I just had been to Spain and have seen the Guernica for the first time in El Reina Sofia, and I was very, impressed by the painting. We went to the studio where Picasso painted Guernica. It's right by the Sena. And just a curiosity about that, the building where he painted Guernica, there is a famous short story by, I think it's Balzac. It's called, it's a story, I forgot the name. It's a story about a painter that is struggling to paint, make a work of art. And that short story became very famous among artists, and Picasso, through Dora Maar, let me look the name of the story, ended up in the same building mentioned by Balzac in the short story as his studio. He wanted the studio to be there, and he painted Guernica in that studio.
I see you have different art, like different references in the painting.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is a short story, the unknown masterpiece. It's a short story by Honoré Balzac. And Picasso ended up having the studio in the same building where the artist from the short story had the studio that is mentioned, the exact address in the short story. And so he painted that there. So what I did was very impacted by all of this. as you mentioned, the reference, there is a reference to Goya too. What I did was to collect images that were being posted online and made a composition trying to quote the composition of Guernica.
Yes, really powerful.
So this painting is about that, about the violence that happened in Cuba, July 11, 2021. So as a result of that, and the assault on civil liberties by the dictatorship in Cuba, um, almost 500,000 Cubans left the island in the last following couple of years. Um, People will go to Nicaragua because I believe there was no visa restriction with the Nicaraguan government, and they will arrange to go all the way to the American border. So this work right here is part of a body of painting called The Path to the Volcanoes. The Volcanoes is a reference to the official idea of why so many Cubans were flying to Nicaragua. People were going on vacation to see the volcanoes. But there is also this element in the phrase los volcanos, this hotness. In Cuban slang, you say voy para arriba la caliente. I'm going. So when I thought of the volcano and these hot, dangerous things, there was a connection with what people were attempting to do, living and going towards something that at the end is going to be hopefully good and will change your life, but the journey is a dangerous one. So this body of work is based on photograph materials of a group of people that did the journey, and it was the first time that I included the actual clothing items, and these are clothing items of people that did the trip. So this hat was there, this jersey was there, and these are photos taken by them during the trip, and this is one of the paintings of that body of work. This rock painting came after the other one with the hammock. Here already, I'm integrating more elements. It's not only the canvas hang stitch onto the rock, but there are other things that were important and relevant. For example, the mask, the COVID mask. Yes. It places this event historically. And we'll look at this in 10, 15 years, and that mask will tell you, when this happened. Also, the plastic bags. It was very impactful for me to see how the people were carrying all their belongings. You have to take what was essential, and the plastic bag is also an object that is very is central in the everyday life in Cuba. You go get things to eat, you bring what is important to feed your family, and then you see yourself reducing your life. And not only your life, you are sometimes you're leaving behind things that are irreplaceable. Family photos, books, things that have been in your family for generations because of the situation, the economic situation that there is in Cuba. People don't throw away things. You grew up in a house where the furniture, the living room furniture was the one that your grandparents were given.
Are decades old.
Yeah, when they were married in the 1910s. Yes. Yep. That's very common. And all those things are left behind. For me, when I returned to Cuba at some point after leaving, those are the things, you go to a house that those things are not there anymore, the family piano, the furniture, I don't know, we had a Van Gogh print. All these things that were part of your life growing up, and that you understood that were part of the life of your mother growing up in the same house, and your grandparents had this for 60 years. And those things they are not valuable in the financial sense of the word, but they are loaded with memory and emotional. Yeah.
Something I love is that your portraiture, the faces of your subjects have such emotion. You capture it so well in the eyes. You could see perhaps the look of worry, the look of uncertainty. It's all there.
It is all there. This is a very brave thing to do.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's not easy. This belongs to the new body of work. One of those intimate everyday moments. You are in the park with, I was in the park with my wife and my daughter, and I saw that moment, and I thought that it was more than just being there, and I'm also interested in that idea of how we are there. There is this concept by a German philosopher, Martin Heidegger, uh, where he calls the human being Dasein. And Dasein is like a simplification of, it means being there in German. Uh, Maybe not actually, but that was his idea. That he thought that the human being is is a way of being there, how you exist on that space that, we are in the world and we find ourselves in this state of thrownness. We have been thrown into a space that already exists. There is a language, there is a set of a code of disciplines and manners and traditions and values that you have to follow. And I mean, sometimes we don't have an option, right? It is interesting to see how people that I have friends that they were born in Miami, uh, they are the kid of Cuban parents, and you cannot get rid of the Cuban accent, for example, and that's a way of being there without being there. So because of the people that are surrounding you, your language is shaped in a way. So this is an idea that I like. And I have thought of this for a title of a painting. Title would be "I have you" or "I carry you in my voice."
Yes.
So
Oh,
this notion of the accent being an intimate form of identity, and then the more universal one is the language. Like, you go to Spain or Argentina, you're still able to communicate with the same language, different accent, but that is I like that. So that how you are there, how you manage to be in there, how just the light in the sky through el follaje, no sé cómo se dice follaje en inglés.
Foliage.
The foliage of the tree.
Yeah.
Could be more than just that. It's like think of this small painting as a sort of they are like aphorism, like short, brief
Moments.
moments that they become like a short poetry. Poetry not in verse. For I'm interested in the prose, and so this book, uh, El Spleen de Paris, it was a book by Charles Baudelaire, the French poet, and it is an amazing representation of how prose was the first moment that a poet got away from the tradition of the verse of
El extranjero.
hay mucho
Mira,
the quote,
no existe
aguijón más abusado que el del infinito. Eh, So this was the body. This collection of poems. It was about everyday life. Paris. It was capturing the fleeting beauty, a city that was changing, the poor neighborhoods, life as it is, and without the musicality of poetry until that point. So this idea of using prose that until then was for another type of literature and conveying uh, the intimacy and the sentimental load that we find in poetry in a different format. This was foundational for modernism and the symbolic poets like Rimbaud that came later. And again, it was about everyday life. It wasn't about the most beautiful topics. It's not romantic poetry. It's poetry about um, a city that is changing, is being turned down and built into something else. The medieval Paris was changing in the 19th century. Beautiful city of Paris that we see today is a pretty new city. It has 100 and something years. And people that were you also think of Miami, how Miami is changing. So I thought of Miami a lot when I read this. So this poem about how everyday life can be like that it's also informing conceptually what I'm working on right now.
I love your setup. Are these some of your favorite books?
Well, I wouldn't say favorite.
Or the
This is
ones that
what I'm looking at
what
right
you're
now.
looking at now? That's a great book.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah. I brought this because a Museum of Modern, they are Miami Dade College. They have a painting of mine that is it is a portrait of Francis Bacon. And when I made that painting, I was reading that book, those sort of interviews, which is what you do now. David Sylvester, he went to the studio of Bacon for 20 years, and that's a collection of 20 years of interview. Imagine that, going back to the studio of artists all those years later. And
he's someone I would love to interview, but also very frightened to interview.
And even today, though, we read this from the distance of time. He had a very was a very intense guy, and you can see it on the work.
Alice Neal.
Alice Neal, yes, photos of. So looking at paintings of everyday life and how look at that. That's beautiful.
That's so gorgeous. I love that.
I made a painting inspired. I have made a couple of paintings. So this painting, the Spanish family, I have a painting that is.
I could see a connection between you and Alice Neal.
So this book I got when they did a big exhibition in New York of her a couple of years ago, and I found these old photographs of my grandmother with my father's brothers. I don't know why my father is not in the photo, but it's my grandmother and my other three uncles, and all from the 60s. And I saw how that photo of my grandmother was very similar to this, and I made a painting, inspired by this composition. It happens a lot that I look at paintings from the past, and I try to what I did on Guernica and to create this connection, this dialogue between art history and what I'm doing now. For example, if we look at this painting right here. So this is a very painting by Pierre Bonnard. All right. So this painting over here. So this is a painting based on a photograph of my family. This is our family, and it was in the summer. My family they live in Boston. When I left Cuba. We went to Boston, and I was there for 8 years. And we go a lot, and we went in the summer. We went to this coastal town north of Boston. It's called Rockport. It's a beautiful, scenic, very very cinematic town. And when we were going back to the city, we were driving by this place where they had like this old house on the side of the road for lunch and things like that. So we went in. We ate something with the family, and we were taking photos. When I saw that tree in its natural color, of course, it reminded me of this painting that I have seen before of Pierre Bonnard.
Yes.
And I thought about doing something with that photograph and
with this pop of color element.
Yeah, so the color is this connection to Paul Gauguin, the idea of representing things, objects in real life with bold, bright colors. They can be represented in a symbolic way. They don't have to be portrayed as they are. And I thought of that idea, and that is something that I have continued to experiment in what I'm doing here, and that painting right there. But it happens a lot that I look at things like this. I look at life, like I mentioned before, and it reminds me of paintings and things that I have seen before in art history. And Can
you show me some of your materials?
Yeah, of course. You can come over here. Well, when the painting is already started, I go right into what I have to do. It's very direct. I already know what I'm doing before I get here. So these paintings are oil sticks. I have worked with many things. The previous work has been canvas, but this goes back to the body of works on paper that I mentioned in the beginning. So So the smell is less intense with the oil stick, and I was working at home and for that body of work, and I use oil stick, and I wanted to continue to use the material. So there is, you see in the composition there, the there is this diagonal line
Yes.
of care and touch between, my partner touching the feet of our daughter, and then my daughter touching my face. So that connection that is going, that continuity, um, there is that tactile element, and that extends to the medium. So the oil stick is essentially you drawing, like I mentioned before. You go back to the beginning and you're drawing. And there is also the absence of a tool that it is between yourself, your hands, and the canvas. It's you touching the thing that is making the mark on the canvas. And at some point, uh, because it has this ephemeral element to it, it goes, it disappears. You press, the oil stick disappears, and you end up touching and almost finger painting on the canvas. So there are a lot of marks here that are made, when the piece of oil stick you have in your hand is almost disappearing.
Well, so it kind of the temperature, the warmth of your hand in a way too.
Exactly. Yeah. So when these start to go away because they disappear, you end up touching the canvas. So the element of the touch and and delicacy of is something that is very central in my life right now. A kid, a baby, you have to guide it, and the touch is very important.
And this is almost like a mock-up of what a painting starts with.
Yes, and the thing with this painting, the rock painting over there with the hammock, the big one. We took that photo at the garden in Nada. So they bring out this hammock for the art week in Nada, the fair in the Ice Palace, and they do that every year. And that painting, I don't know, maybe 4 years old. That photo, and it's a photo of myself. And this year we went with our baby to the fair.
Oh, I see it.
So there is this connection of between that work that happened, that moment 3-4 years ago, and now how
versus this.
Yes.
So now,
I'm selecting here, the palette of what things are going to be. Yeah.
You play around with the
Yeah. So, for example,
colors.
these pieces of fabric, they come from other bodies of work. These they were part of the Patio de Volcano. So there is leftover, for example. The pink jersey over there is this. So the material doesn't end with one work. There are pieces of the material as ideas.
Starts in another. So there's a connection.
There is definitely an actual physical material connection from that painting that is speaking about the struggle of looking for safety and freedom and a better life and leaving everything behind, and this painting that is about the intimacy of parenthood and motherhood and a new life that is being shaped. Yeah.
So after this, what's your plan?
Just to continue developing this body of work. It's still early.
How long do you have in the studio?
I'll be here until, I don't have the exact date, but it's somewhere in late January.
Late January.
Yeah, late January. Yeah, there will be another open studio at some point. We want to announce that, and we have done two. One very at the beginning of the residency, and one for the art week. And a lot of people came for the second one, and yeah, we're hoping to do another one. So we'll be announcing that at some point.
You're also with LNS.
I'm with LNS. Yes, I have worked with LNS for 2017, almost 9 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 9 years. We have done 4 solo shows, 4 or 5. Yeah, through LNS, the work has gone to a lot of institutions. The painting in El Espacio 23, painting in the PAM, There is another work, abstract painting about Miami, about Ulite. I went to the Frost Museum. There is a large painting right now that everyone is invited to go see in the Low Museum. It's called La Danza de la Razón.
Sí.
It's my biggest rock painting so far.
Do you see yourself working more and more large?
Yeah, my
Or
work.
it depends.
Yeah, it depends. It depends of the space, the circumstances. I do enjoy the big format a lot. I like the physicality of it. But there is also this, these paintings right here, these works on paper, small format, they are intimate. These they were made mass mocha residency. I went to Light last year.
That's right. You were part of that.
I was part of the first group of artists taken there by Ulite. And I was surprised how powerful these small paintings in size can be.
This is so sweet. I love this. There's something very intimate with these little ones.
Yes, and this we could say is the beginning.
The size doesn't compromise because you still have your fabrics and just the mood.
Yeah, exactly. For me, paintings, even though they are visual, the central thing is that have this visual element. That's how they are paintings, but they are objects. They exist out there after you finish them, and they need to have a presence. I feel like a work of art. To me, when I go to a museum or an art fair or a gallery, the painting that attracts me is the one that has wall power. It could be a 12 by 12 painting. It doesn't have to be big, but it's like the character in a person. They have it, and that's the attempt every time myself I make a painting. I don't know how that artists work, but for me, that's what I look for.
What's your biggest inspiration, you think?
Right now, it's my daughter. And it will be for a long time. But until recently, my biggest influence, I'm in constant dialogue and connection with art history and literature. I read more than I paint. I believe that as an artist today, after 25, 2500, 2500 years of Western thought and 500 years of oil painting, the least we can do, and probably all we can do, is know what happened before. And make sure that when we do something and we attempt to do something, we don't make the mistake of believing that we are discovering anything. At best, what we can do is to represent, not in the way of, in the sense of conveying something in a figurative way, but rearranging something has been done before and knowing that has been done before. Knowing that what we do is a dialogue with what happened before and it is our duty to know. It is our duty to know. That's why, as a figurative painter, I have to know, who are the artists that did it before. If I have done my grandmother painting, it's called La Madonna Tropical. It's a way of elevating Latin women and putting them in a position of important of protagonism, something that have been saved for European wealthy women throughout history. And I don't know that Alice Neal made that painting, of a Spanish family in 1943. I will be failing. It's not about the painting that I'm doing. It's about how the painting that I'm doing connect with what have been done before. And yeah, so literature, art history, and yeah, any idea that we have today, you can be sure it has been presented before.
What's your advice to emerging artists?
There are three things, reading a lot, knowing history, go read some literature, philosophy if you can, anything that you like, and you gotta work. You gotta paint. You gotta paint and you gotta paint. Painters paint and writers write. That's the only way. You have to be ready when the opportunity comes. Yeah, be in the studio, be in the space that you have, and put time into your work. And the work as an artist doesn't end when you leave the studio. As I said before, it's a way of, to me, it has been a way of seeing. What we do, we convey what we do through other people's eyes. People have to see. Remind me of a quote. There is a quote, I forgot who it is. Uh, La historia del arte es la historia de las miradas depositadas sobre los cuadros. So the history of art is the history of the glances deposited on the surface of the paintings. So we all see something different in them, and a painting may change its meaning by what we bring with us to the encounter of the painting. It is like a mirror. You will only see there what you're able to see. That's it. There is what the artist has to say or wanted to say, but most of the time it doesn't matter because most people, 99% of the people, don't have the opportunity of knowing what the artist. Today we go to a museum and we have read about, Bonar's idea of intimacy and how he loved, but we don't know what happened that day. We don't know the reason of the dinner party in the terrace of the house.
Yes.
And so it's what we bring to that. How can that image inform our experience, and it's only possible of what we bring to the encounter of that image.
William, mil gracias.
Placer.
I'm going to leave William's information down in the description if you want to get a hold of him.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.